Hey, it's Jeff G. Holt of V-Twin Visionary, and we're here with another episode of Ride Wrench Review. So, my riding impressions of this bike are, it's really lightweight. It feels really good, inner city riding. Long rides, it's pretty comfortable. It's got the 3/4 mids on it, so your feet are underneath you. It's really, for me, a more comfortable stance than having your feet all the way sticking out. The mini apes are pretty comfortable once you adjust them where you want them. All in all, this bike being one of the lower price bikes in the Harley lineup, it actually has the bones to be a really cool custom bike. We're going to be slapping some stuff on this thing to show you just how cool it could actually be. First of all, we are going to blow this bike apart, put a brand new 131 kit in it, a new exhaust, some new intake action, and a bunch of Harley parts and accessories. Danny Wilson, our technical editor, will be in charge of that. Watch him do it.
Hey, it's Danny Wilson. We're here with the latest Ride Wrench review bike. This is a 2021 Street Bob. I just got it off the dyno. We've got a baseline run with it as received, so bone stock. We're gonna start tearing it down. So we're doing a 131 kit, some handlebars, an exhaust system, air intake. So I'll have the fuel tank off, seat off, pipes off. The bars are coming off of it. We'll have the top end of the engine torn down. We'll have the cam chest torn down. On this video, we're gonna go a little bit more in depth on the technical side of things and what we're doing and why we're doing it. So stay tuned.
We're going to start tearing this engine down. To be clear, this is not a tutorial. We're just going to go in chronological order in the sequence that I do things based on the service manual, which I would strongly suggest you have with you if you're going to be attempting to do this job yourself. We are going to cover some tech tips as we go along here. You'll see that I'm using some power tools during teardown. That's the only time power tools are able to be used. When you're doing assembly, everything needs to be done by hand with ratchets and torque wrenches. After removing the top end, we're going to get into the cam chest area. After these engines have been run, there are times that the gaskets will bind the covers to the crankcase. In those instances, you're going to want to use a soft face hammer to break those loose. When you're pulling the locks out of the piston wrist pins, make sure that you have something that's closing off the crankcase so you don't drop a wrist pin lock in the crankcase. Very difficult to get them out if you do without removing the engine. If you do find that any of the covers have bound themselves to the crankcase, be sure that you use a soft face mallet so that it does not damage the cover while you're removing it. As a general practice for myself, I always bag the hardware as I take things apart. That way, I'm not looking for it when I go to put it back together. Now we're going to pop the cover off the cam chest, which is going to expose the cam plate and the chain drive system that drives the cam off of the pinion shaft. When you do take this cover off, it is going to drop oil, so you're going to want to have something underneath the cam chest to catch all that oil as it drains. After removing the hydraulic cam chain tensioner, we're going to be removing the cam drive system. To do that, you have to have a locking tool that will eliminate the ability for anything to turn as you're breaking the bolts loose. Once the cam draft system is removed, we're going to pull the cam plate with the oil pump as an assembly. You'll see the cam slides right out. When reassembling, the oil pump and the cam plate have to be separated. This is an area where you can potentially make a mistake. This oil pump has to be centered correctly in a very specific sequence, so consult a service manual before you do this. All of these are done in inch pounds, and it's done in a sequence that needs to be followed very specifically. The cam is timed, so it's critical that you get all of the timing marks lined up on the drive chains and get the tooth in the cam lined up with that gear properly. Now that the cam chest is buttoned back up, we're going to start assembling the top end. You're going to need a set of ring compressors to install the cylinder over the piston. These are automotive style ring compressors, and you will notice if you have a set that it says bottom with an arrow. That has to face up. These ring compressors get used upside down because they're designed to work on an automotive block where the piston is pushed down into the cylinder. Obviously with us working on motorcycles, we're doing it backwards. One thing to note with these cylinders is that the sleeve is very thin, which makes it fragile. It's very critical that you leave these cylinders when they're sitting on a bench with the head gasket surface down. Be very aware of where the sleeve is making contact so that you don't potentially push it out of round. Now we're going to install the cylinder heads. Again, refer to a service manual. There's a very specific pattern and sequence that these head bolts have to be tightened in. Always use new head bolts when you're doing this. This kit includes the new head bolts that you need. Now that the heads are back on, we're going to be putting the rocker boxes back together and the rocker arms themselves. It's critical that the cam is on base circle on the cylinder that you're working with. If you do not base circle the cam when you put the rockers back in place and torque them, you can potentially damage the cylinder head. This is another task that, when being done, definitely needs to be done with a torque wrench. Now we're installing the throttle body. This is the new Screamin Eagle 64mm throttle body that is also included with this kit. You will be transferring the fuel line from your original throttle body, but this kit includes new injectors. Last thing we're going to do is install the pipe. You need to transfer the oxygen sensors from your original exhaust system into this new Screamin Eagle pipe. Obviously we're going to put the tank and the seat back on the bike. The last thing that's going to happen is we're going to reprogram it. This engine kit does require that the ECM be recalibrated. We're using the Harley-Davidson Street Tuner. There is a map in there that is preset and known good for this setup.
We just got back from the test ride. We put some miles on the bike. The power delivery is really nice. It's making a lot of power. You can definitely feel the difference. And for a high performance motor, this behaves like you would want it to. It's very easy to ride. Now we've got some miles on the bike. It's been heat cycled. It's got some break-in miles on it. We're going to take it and put it on the dyno. We're going to measure and see what kind of horsepower and torque it's actually putting out. We did 3 power runs with it, and the horsepower and torque are 132 and 135. This is with the Harley-Davidson Screamin Eagle 131 Stage 4 kit, and the map that is in it is an untouched base map that comes from the Harley-Davidson Street Tuner. So at 132 horsepower and 135 foot-pounds of torque, those are really respectable numbers, and by installing this kit, you actually are able to maintain your warranty, which is unheard of for this kind of performance. Thanks for checking out the video. I hope you enjoyed it. This is 2021 Street Bob, decked out with all the Harley-Davidson accessories that we could get. Thanks for watching. We're going to get started on another video real soon.